What if I told you that Montessori might actually be preparing your kids for jobs in an age of artificial intelligence? From thread work to spatial reasoning, logic, and learning how to pour in a cup, all of these essentials or basics of Montessori style education is actually raising resilient and grounded children who are able to not only thrive in the real world, but also will be able to thrive in a world that is saturated by screens. Today, I am talking to Madhura Gogte Pusalkar. She is a Montessori educator, a child development expert, and a music teacher from Mumbai, India. We're going to pick her brains on a lot of different aspects of Montessori education today, but most importantly, learn from her tips and strategies on how to raise kids that are grounded in reality. Welcome to the show, Madhura. It's lovely to have you here today.
Thank you, Deepa. It's so lovely to be here and to be a part of your podcast. I'm loving it.
Yes. So Madhura and I actually go way back. She and I were a part of the same nonprofit, and I'm excited to be reconnecting with her. The nonprofit was where we used to work with children in need from shelter homes in Pune. It feels like we come back in circle again to talk about kids and
Indeed.
education.
Indeed. And the nonprofit also really helped children from the underprivileged section where we taught them English, where we got them really capable for jobs. So English education was one of the most important aspects of it. It's called Make a Difference. And if you're interested, join it.
I was just going to plug it in saying I'll leave the description. It's good to be talking to everybody from Make a Difference these days because it's interesting that everybody is still focused into empowering children. And that's what we're going to talk to you as well today. But before we dive into that aspect, Madhura, I want to understand what drew you to Montessori education. Like, tell us a bit more about your background as an educator and also as a music teacher.
Certainly. So, as you know, I've always been interested in working with children, right? And I started Little Miracles almost 15 years back. And that's when I realized that is there a philosophy that I can start following? Or is there some kind of a philosophy that will get me down to the roots of what children really are, what they really need, and, going to really specific aspects of, the basics, what is it that is really needed to build a resilient human being that is just going to help this child build into this confident young being, capable of doing everything on its own, on his or her own.
How has the experience been so far? You've been in this sector for 15 years. Paint us a picture about all of the changes you've seen probably in the Montessori space, perhaps situated in India itself, right? From when you started to right now.
So, if I talk about not just Montessori per se, but early child education, ever since we started off, it started off very small back in Pune 15 years back, where people were just getting to know of after school as activities. Little Miracles was probably one of the first activity centers that was established in Pune. And from there on, they've mushroomed almost in every nook and corner. You will see an after school hour or a preschool, etc. in India. But the kind of activities that have been going on across different places has really changed, of course. I mean, they've gone from really simple, basic things to really, like, there are Lego classes, there are, all sorts of classes that are happening out there. But what I really enjoy and what I've really stuck to my roots are things that I feel are the most crucial for children that they can enjoy through their life. Something that will be with them forever, and some things that will be a foundation for them as they grow on with life, as they move on with life, with the hectic, stressful life. So that's why I think music always rings a bell, and I always get back to it, because music is something that even we saw during the pandemic, right? I mean, it was something that always got us really calm. It's always something that uplifts our mood at all times, right? So that's definitely something that I enjoy and I pass on. Or even like parenting advice that I give, parents, where I work very closely with one-on-one with families who are from nuclear setups or who want to go and parent the right way. Of course, there is no right and wrong. It always is, the way you look at it. But I think giving them the right guiding principles and then they can work themselves around it is something what is quite interesting and crucial.
Madhura, it's interesting you shared with us that there is a whole wide range of activities that are available through these school care programs, or the kind of activities that you're also offering for children. And it probably depends on individual child's interests and stuff.
100%.
But what happens when technology is introduced into that realm? Because you spoke about the pandemic too, right? And in during the pandemic, I think a whole generation grew up realizing you can access education through phones. You don't need to be in classrooms, you don't need to sit in one place, right? So is there space for technology in Montessori style education? That's where I'm going.
So there are two parts to this. Number one is Montessori. Let's talk about it this way, where Montessori is a place which adapts to every situation, right? It's a way of life because it's a philosophy, so it's a way of life. It definitely focuses on the fact where children need to be involved while doing a certain activity, where they're using their hands, because in Montessori we say that the hands are an instrument for the brain, So the more the hands are at work, the more thought process or the more neurological connections happen, right? So does a screen let you do that is something that we need to ask ourselves. If a screen is going to be a means of giving you instructions where you continue to work on a particular activity by yourself, then it is okay to a certain extent. But beyond that, why do you want to get technology for children when there are so many options that children can do even otherwise? I think this is very adult led thinking, and it's never a child led thinking, because adults always think that if we are using technology, children need to be using technology, wherein children don't need that. Even a free play or even a play in the garden or play in the park or just going hiking or being anywhere connected to nature and doing natural things, even if it is helping at home to set the table, even if it's cooking, it's peeling, it's making your own breakfast, it's making your own lunch or a snack. That is the real education that one needs in life beyond a screen. And you don't need a screen for that. You just have to look at something or someone or an adult is guiding you and you are focused on that part. I really think it's a very adult led thought process where they feel that a screen is necessary for a child to be interacting with somebody. And parents, I think parents or adults feel that, oh, I think I am incapable of teaching my child, so let the screen teach the child. Is that really the way to go about it? I mean, if you really think about it, parents these days are unfortunately just it's fed into their psyche that they are not capable. And somebody else who is on the screen, somebody else who is more trained in a particular thing is the right person to kind of, guide my child. But just hold on for a moment, pause a little, and reflect and see if you are able to study that little part, whatever that you want the children to learn and for them to grow, and do it yourself. It's probably the simplest thing that you can showcase to the children, because you're role modeling that I am capable and I am capable of teaching you. So if we think about it from that perspective of doing things yourself, doing things using your own experience, your own thought process, etc., I think that is a much healthier space to be rather than to show a screen and to do it. Yes, of course, during the pandemic, things got really out of control, wherein I did have a lot of online classes. I did have something, I did over like 150 story read alouds. I did my music together classes online, but the duration was very, very short. They were like 20-minute classes. Which was it, the children would be there, and I made sure that they did an activity after the story. So the screen where I was there, I wasn't only there just to narrate a story, but I was also making sure that the children were using their hands, they were looking around, they were moving around the house, they were getting certain things, they were, we played I Spy, we made some craft activity. So, there was something always that was attached with also looking at the screen, right?
Mm.
So, trying to imply all these principles, I think made those classes really engaging, made them to the point, and that's it.
Mm.
So that's something that I would highly recommend and talk to all adults who are in the field of technology, that don't put so much of technology on the children. They don't need it. They really, really don't need it.
It's so interesting that you put it that way because two aspects to what you mentioned, like a role modeling, of course, kids are mimicking adults' behavior, especially in that early stages, I believe, between 1 to 10 years. They're really impressionable until the age of 5. And after 5, they probably have peers and friends outside that they get influenced by. But yes, role modeling for sure. Kids see parents and other adults around them constantly on screens and scrolling. That's what they take away too, right? And the other aspect is free play that you mentioned, right? It is so important to use hands to be connected with nature. I believe you already listed out 10 screen free activities free of cost in your response. uh,
It's fun, the more you make it as an activity, to make it fun, to make it precise, and to perfect it. Why not? I mean, imagine how much focus and concentration that the children can, actually work upon if they are just told that I need this napkin to be folded in the most perfect square.
mm,
Imagine the focus and the concentration with which the child is able to do it, that all the corners need to be touching each other and it has to have the perfect fold. That
mm,
everyone will just be so focused. And imagine you're teaching children a way of life. You're teaching children to be a particular way and not just randomly fold stuff and just, dump it in your cupboards or in your drawers, but you're telling them how precise you can be. You're teaching them how beautiful it can look when you're really neat and tidy about certain things.
for sure. And it tells you that there are so many activities inside the house itself that exist that you can, engage your child with. And you can make it unique and fun by adding more twists and challenges and layers to them, right? Which almost makes me wonder, are we overthinking parenting and or playtime or raising kids?
Yes. I always feel that. I think parenting or simply raising children, you have to try and understand basics here, right? What is it that you really want your child to be?
Mm.
How are you really getting your child to be that independent person who you want him to be, who's focused, who's resilient, who's taking care of themselves, who's able to manage finances, is able to drive, is a good citizen, is able to feed himself or herself, is able to move around the world confidently, right? And what is it that you really require for all of that is not technology, but it is human interaction is what one really requires. It is to observe different human beings. It is to go and actually get an experience of different things by being away from the screen, because the screen is constantly in your face. So you're not going to be learning from, or what is this person doing when he goes to the airport when I'm traveling, rather than actually going to the airport and where the parent is actually showing the child, oh, do you see this person? Now, this person is going to be, putting a label on your bags, or this person is going to be printing out your boarding passes, or something like that. Something really, really simple, or even going there and making a list of, hey, we are traveling to such and such place. Let's find out what the weather is like.
Mm.
What are the things, if the weather is really warm, what are the things that you wish to carry with you? You need to carry your sunglasses, you need to carry your, sunscreen, simple things, that where you're giving children that education, that focus, where they start thinking on them on their own, and you're not just feeding, saying that, oh my God, I've got 10 things to do. I am packing my child's bag, I'm packing my husband's bag, I'm packing my own bag, and we are traveling, and now I need a holiday from this holiday. So, and that happens so many times because I've met so many mothers, so many fathers. It's like, you know what? I need a holiday for myself because this holiday was for my children and not for us. But why do you want to make it like that, right? I mean, if you
Correct.
can make it really cohesive, make your children independent, have certain use technology to make sure that they're safe. So have your technology like your bands or your GPS bands or things. Use technology for such things, not to control them or not to just put a screen in front of them while you're having a meal. I
Mm.
mean, that's probably the most annoying thing that I see with parents across the world. I
Yeah.
mean, the amount I've seen parents keeping a screen in front of the child just to push that food down their mouth, let it go down their throat or whatever. I don't know what their point here is. But ever since that has happened, children's healths have really gone for a toss because
Mm.
then they just don't know what they're eating. They don't know the kind of food they're eating. Their tastes because they're not concentrating on anything, right? Their tastes have gone for a toss. They don't know textures. They are not able to eat with their hands because somebody is just feeding them.
Mm.
And it's such a wrong way of feeding oneself. Or
Oh, I know. So many different elements and layers to that, right? So let's I want to shift gears and talk about solutions here. As a Montessori educator, perhaps there are examples you've seen that have been successful for certain families or kids that you have interacted with, right? What do you think parents need? And perhaps we can just emphasize on top three strategies or tools they need in their pocket, which they can use at home as inside their homes as well, or whenever they're traveling, let's say. So both parents and kids are grounded in reality and are able to connect to one another and are able to pause and reflect if need be without the intervention or use of technology. What are those top three things?
that's really beautiful. So one I would say is consistency in the way you are dealing with your children, the way you talk to your child, the way you show up every single time, the way just simply the consistency that you show every single time. Let me give you an example.
Mm.
So just yesterday, I got a message from a parent saying that, hey, Madhura, do you know what? My daughter is singing independently and is making up her own tunes now. So this child came to me she was about a year old
Mhm.
and very, very shy. They just shifted from Geneva to India and very shy, very, quiet little girl. Lovely parents. And the only thing that she did was to show up for class
Mm.
and to show that it is fun being in class, it is fun making music, it is fun to sing together as a community. It is really fun to interact and engage with different children. And she just made an effort of being consistent. And after over a year, I get a message like this saying that Madhura, it's a dream come true for me, where I see my child slowly going out there, picking up an instrument and getting it and coming back and sitting. Another thing where she is learning to, just sing to her own little tune whenever she's doing a certain activity. Or yesterday, the mum was putting her to sleep and she just continued the lullaby with a pa 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 and a la la la, right? It was so beautiful even for me to get a message like this because then your belief in what you're doing, it just gets stronger,
Mm.
right? So everything that a parent of such sort does, for a fact that this child is always going to be on a path of success or is on the right path because the parents have always instilled the aspect of consistency in them. Yes,
Mm.
no matter what, we need to show up. Yes, you have a slight cold. Yes, you're cranky, but we need to show up. We'll finish our class and then we head back home. And then,
Mm.
you get all your comforts, etc. But showing up and being there is really, really, really crucial. And I can't emphasize more on something like this because I know it works and I know it from my own personal experiences of what my mother did for me when it comes to showing up and being there. It just builds It just makes you so much more resilient. It makes you, it helps you to push your limits. It helps you to be there and to show up every single time, even when you don't want to be, right? And that's what life is. And that one is really crucial.
Mm,
Second, I would say is to role model the right manners and the right values.
mm,
Somewhere, even, in India, we make sure that every time we meet somebody elderly, we go touch their feet. We want to take blessings from them. So a simple thing of, yes, a hug is equally important, but every time you touch somebody's feet, I think the kind of blessings that we get, or even doing like a simple namaskar to them, or certain things, or just by being gracious and just saying a hello.
mm.
Hello, how are you? Nice to meet you. It was so wonderful. The other day, I went to my friend's place and she has a 10-year-old. And I met her after quite some time. I was like, hi, it's so nice to meet you. And then she came and gave me a hug. And she's like, I'm so happy to meet you. It's really nice to meet you. I was like, a 10-year-old being so gracious and so courteous. And it's always because what the parents have taught her, or what she's simply seen and what she is mimicking. Because there are so many children who will just be on the phone, lying down on the sofa, and won't care to who's come into their home or not. How, whatever, somebody's come in, and, why do I need to be there? Because they're not my friends. So that's the conversation and, the tussle that keeps happening at all times. But I think good values, good manners, they never, never go out of fashion. I mean, and the kind of respect that you get when you follow these anywhere in the world, I think is another great way of going about it. So I would say consistency, role modeling of good values.
Yeah.
And thirdly, I would say to make your children independent.
Mm,
Make them independent into making their own decisions, to make their own choices,
mm,
to make, like, as I always keep giving this example, that start really young at about 1.5 to 2, where would you like to have a banana, or would you like to have an apple today?
mm, mm,
Right? So let them make a choice of how exactly what do I want today? What do I feel like having as a snack today? Right?
mm.
Obviously, not during lunch, wherein, oh, do you want to have pasta today, or do you want to have roti sabzi today? I mean, then it's obviously, then it just that's the wrong choice, because then, you're just like, running around making sure that, you're feeding the child's making sure you're fulfilling the child's wishes. That's not something that I'm saying, but something that is possible in that given framework,
Mm,
and is something that the child knows the direction in which they can head.
mm,
So even if it is, would you like to start off with, studying science first and completing your English, your languages later? What would you like to start off with? Right? Simple things like that, where I think the more choices you give them, oh no, mama, I think it's science is a little difficult. It's going to take me a little longer. I'm going to need your help for this. So can you sit with me right now? So okay, then let's start off with that and then move on to languages later. What I'm trying to say is that the more choices that children make from a young age, the better they know themselves, the better and imagine, when you know yourself, you can make so many important choices of which career stream that you want to choose, what are the kind of friends that you're choosing. Is this the right life partner for me?
mm.
So, because many a times a decision is just pushed on to children,
The
right?
kids. Yeah.
And where the child is like, okay, fine, if I make a mistake, if I'm not able to, be successful in a particular thing, I'm just going to blame it on the parents.
Mm,
And I know so many of my friends who've said something like this, that I'm not going to make any choice. Let my parents make a choice for me, because poor things have never been given a choice or an option to make a choice, right? So they don't know themselves. They don't know what they want in life, and it's sad to think about it. So yes, and for parents to have also the patience to make
mm,
sure that every child is capable and is born for something that they are meant to do.
Mm.
Don't force them into some things um, that is not meant for them. If your child doesn't have a doesn't have the aptitude um to be the best in math, but is great in music or dance or in football, let them be. It's okay. Not necessary everybody needs to know your math,
Yeah.
or to be the best in it.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
if you're seeing an aptitude for something in your children, encourage that.
Mm.
Everybody doesn't need to go to an IIT. Everybody doesn't need to go into an Ivy League. Let them do something that they love, because life is short, and they will find their way in this.
That is so, so well put, Madhura. And thank you so much for articulating each of these strategies, the three strategies that you just mentioned with examples, because it's important for parents and even other kinds of listeners who are into the caregiving space to really hear what it means to be raising kids in a grounded way in the reality, right? Like role modeling, such an important skill, teaching them good values and manners, so, so important, especially in a day and age where you often find kids and teenagers talking into phones, into the social media abyss where they're not directly interacting with humans. So
Exactly.
everybody is forgetting what it takes to interact with humans to keep the conversation going and such and such. So it's good that we have, these toolkits or strategies for how to raise resilient kids. But let's pivot and talk a bit about parents here, right? I'm a parent, and even before I gave birth, I was so anxious about bringing my child into this world. Like, yes, I wanted to be a mother. I knew it always that I wanted to be a mom one day, but we are living in an age of abundance and choices all around us. I say that because you mentioned choices, right? And the paradox of abundance that we have around us. Like there are 10 different kinds of strollers you can choose, but here are the top five rated according to the internet, saying the best influencer moms have these strollers to, are you feeding the right formula? Are you feeding this, that, right? Everybody is prophesizing on the internet about the right way to raise your child. So when there's so much of information, how do parents navigate, you know, um, such information? But also B, from a Montessori educator's perspective, what is important that parents know about early child raising? That they cut out all the noise and they focus on the important aspects of, or the important elements that they need to focus on when raising the child up to the teenagers, let's say.
That's such a beautiful question, and there is so. I mean, there's just so much that can be done. But for parents, and I've always discussed this with my husband as well, that somewhere parents really need a kind of a setup
Mm,
where they know what to expect when they are having a child. So, I think they should go in for a certain kind of a session, which hopefully I will start really soon, to guide parents to try and understand what it really takes and what can they really expect when they become parents.
mm,
Right? So it's not about the kind of strollers that you have, nothing material, right? But some things that they need for the well being of the child, their own personal well beings, and the well being of the family at large.
mm,
Right? The moment you think about all these aspects, you will get down to your basic fundamentals that are really, really crucial in life.
mm,
With any kind of a large aspect of anything that you wish to do at a large scale, in that sense of the term, I would say that think about it from a perspective of a philosophy, because a
mm,
philosophy will always have its ground rules.
mm,
So, what are these ground rules that you live by? So, if
mm,
it is your own personal philosophy, or if it is something that you have seen with multiple maybe successful people, right? Say, for example, and you wish to follow that, you wish to inculcate that in yourself, is something that I would say that one should really, really work on.
mm,
Because the moment you have a certain framework to put things into perspective, becomes your answers just fit in those boxes. Is this the right thing for me? Is this not the right thing for me? Am I making the decision? Is this fitting back into my philosophy? Say, for example, your philosophy is to be minimalistic, right? So, when you have your philosophy to be a minimalist, you totally make decisions according to that, wherein I will make sure that my children's birthdays are done really simply. There are no return gifts that I'm going to have. Maybe it is something where I will just have 3 to 5 friends of my child who would really matter to my child is what I'm going to be, is who I'm going to be inviting. I'm going to have something eco-friendly. Maybe there's an activity involved in something like this that I'm doing. But again, in all of this, there is a philosophy that you're following, something that you really, really believe in, that you wish to follow. So if your philosophy is, I mean, people can have another philosophy where I just want to spend a lot of money on my child and this is what I want to do. If that is going to be your philosophy, you have to be ready for all the repercussions that are going to happen every single time that a child wishes to have a birthday. I mean, it's just a birthday after all, right? It was so beautiful, in fact, talking about birthdays. I remember that I attended a Montessori workshop, and the trainer there, she said that she had, I think, about 3 children. And she said that every single birthday, I make sure that I gift my child a responsibility.
Interesting.
And she said that I gift. So, first, say for instance, the child's responsibility was to simply, at about 1.5, 2, the responsibility was simply put his or her own clothes in the laundry basket. A simple thing like that. The next year, the responsibility, the gift of responsibility was to put everything from their own laundry basket into the washing machine. For the fourth birthday, it was to make sure that everybody else's laundry is put into the washing machine, not just the child, that everybody in the family. And the fifth year, when they can read and they're able to maneuver a bit of technology or washing machines, they were able to measure the amount that they were supposed to, the amount of detergent and liquid that they were supposed to put into this. We just made sure that there was every year there was a responsibility that was given, that the child was able to consistently do it for the entire year. And imagine something like this that you keep doing every single day. It doesn't pile up on you when it just becomes a normal in that sense, right? It's okay for children to do that. Why shouldn't they do it? They need to help themselves, right? And if you always notice, children are giving us those signs at a young age that, or they'll push it. Let me do it myself. But we kind of push it on them, saying that no, 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 you're not capable of doing it. Let me help you. It comes out of love. It comes out of a very kind space in our hearts. But that's not what the child wants. Maria Montessori always talked about a beautiful line. She says, help me to do it by myself is what a child's call is always. That is always what the child really wishes to say, wishes to tell the parent or tell the adult, please help me, please teach me to do everything by myself so I am capable of doing everything. So, which is satisfying my ego, which is satisfying me to a large extent to make sure that I am doing an activity and am able to complete it as well by the end of it. So these seems like all these things seem like jargons, but when you actually see this in practice, it's probably the most rewarding feeling that one gets, like being a Montessori guide or simply observing children or guiding parents to help their children, and to see these results are mind blowing.
I completely
Absolutely mind blowing.
agree because my daughter is 1.5 years old, and I've tried to learn the Montessori way myself through books and through YouTube videos and implement wherever I can possible whenever I remember. And it's always astonishing for me to see her response to those things and how she picks up on those cues so well. And now she has a vocabulary, let's say, of 20 words, 30 words, and that she's trilingual. We speak 3 languages at home.
Beautiful.
So she is picking up those same instructions in different languages and is able to, cross code and match those languages that, okay, kachra means this in Marathi, this in Tamil, and this in Gujarati, because my husband's family is Gujarati. So and she knows where the dustbin is. So she's like, okay, she asked me permission that is this garbage? Can I go throw it? And then she knows where the garbage is and she goes throws into it. So she finds it it's an activity for her, right? Like, as you mentioned, they want to do the chore. They want to feel independent and not dependent on us. So it's true to the T, what you just described.
Wonderful, and I'm so glad you're experiencing it, because the more you experience it, the more you believe it. And it all comes from doing. It all comes from being there, and it all comes. And I'm telling you, patience. Patience is the only thing. It's a virtue, and especially in today's day and age, where everything is a click away, and where everything is we as human beings have just become so impatient, right? We want everything now. We like, it can't be possible. It's not possible. And unfortunately, that is expected from children as well. And even children are getting more and more impatient. They want things now. And I think to teach them that everything has a time and a place, and everything will fall in place if you let it be, is something that patience teaches you, and is probably the biggest virtue that one can teach children these days.
Especially in the age of social media and instant
Absolutely.
gratification, where you're just seeing 30 seconds reels and that constant pressure to perform and be sort of performative even in real life, rather than being real.
Absolutely. And it's probably, it just teaches you to slow down a little, that it's okay.
Yeah,
It's
for
fine.
sure.
You will get there. you know. And that it's like, it goes back where my father never liked to use the phone either. So he would
Mm.
say I would always prefer a landline phone, because I can really have a nice conversation with somebody who's on the phone, where I can have a proper conversation, or even better when it's face to face,
Mm.
right? But that is what we need to teach our children, where, I mean, of course, when we're in different parts of the world, it's difficult to do that. But even when you're in the same city, make sure that you're meeting in person,
Mm.
having play dates, or you're having play dates in a way where there's not too much done, but things to a certain extent that the children are able to have a good time. They're learning to interact, they're learning to fight, and make sure that they get their way out, or obviously without bullying each other, but they're able to express themselves with their friends. They're understanding the social norms, the things that one can do, one shouldn't do, etc. And I think in such a time, having less of adult interference is always very, very healthy.
I know that we are already talking about like the positives or things that help children and also help us as adults when we slow down, when we are connected to each other in reality. So I feel like it's a good segue into talking about a hopeful future,
Yes.
which I love to do in a part of the podcast, is ask my guests, like, what hope do you have for this future generation, this generation Alpha and Beta that are growing up surrounded by screens, surrounded by technology? Um, you know, this is kind of a new normal, right? And the jobs of the future are probably also going to be very different from what they are today. So, what hope do you have for this generation? And also, um, are we pushing our children into tech literacy or like doing too many things too soon? What is your perspective on that?
Wow.
I know, loaded.
How do I see the future for these children? I would just say that it begins with us.
Mm.
It begins with us, where it like their future would depend on us, on how we raise them today. I would say that I think things are going way too fast, even for adults to comprehend.
Mm.
Even everything is just going, it's just, I mean, there's a new version of everything that is coming up between now and then. But what really remains is are the basic principles. So by not deviating from them, but to continue them. Yes, try and be in a place without too much technology. Yes, I won't say that it's not important. I would say yes, you need to be in times, move ahead with technology. Yes, 200% to that. But how well do you use this technology is something that we need to teach our children.
Hmm.
How much to use it is again we need to teach our children. How what is it because it's just gonna be changing like every moment. It's just gonna be too fast for us. And even I see that with my in-laws or my mother, where or even their friends, where they feel so lost with technology around them. They are used to their their smartphones, or they've used a little bit of the computer, but they're very lost because they're not up with technology today. So I always feel that getting back to the roots, not forgetting the basic principles of what makes us different, what makes us human beings, what makes us happy, what makes us as make things that make you content, things that satisfy you to a deep to that spiritual level is something what one needs to really stick by. Things are moving on too fast, and I don't know, with the amount of depression, with the amount of pressures, with the amount of suicides that are happening, it's a sad space. People are mentally not as strong,
Hmm.
or the kind of pressures that are coming onto them are shaking their base, shaking their foundations to a large extent. We
Yeah.
really need to be careful with the children today.
100%. I keep referring back to this book that I absolutely love reading. It's called The Anxious Generation by Jonathan Haidt,
Yes.
who's a researcher and a professor from the US. And his research team is from all over North America as well as Europe. And he points out evidence that links increasing suicide rates among teenagers or high school students and mental health issues directly to social media and technology use. More so, social media, because it's not doing any good. It's not adding any
Not
value
at
to
all.
their lives.
Not at all. Not at all.
Um, and they're so, I forget the word he uses, but their brains are so immature and can be shaped by anything they see online, right? So as teenagers especially, they need to be protected from that world where everything gets taken personally, or they feel like it's a reflection of who they are, or they're not good enough to fit into the society. Just as you mentioned, we get shaken to the core so easily by technology that I think especially parents who are raising the future generations need to be very mindful of integrating technology into their day-to-day lives,
100%.
especially around children.
100%. I mean, it's scary to see what's happening now, and if you don't take care of it now, it's gonna be difficult. But I loved what Australia's doing. I loved one of the where they've completely banned social media till the age of 16, I believe.
Hmm.
And if the government is taking those kind of stands, it's a very important way to kind of be, because if we are not resilient, or if we are not aware, or if we are not taking those right moves at the right time, it will destroy our generations. And it's very sad. I mean, it scares me to just think about what life could be for these young children, of what there could be with where they're just simply ordering food online. They are watching television, they're just stuck on an OTT platform, or they're
Hmm.
just simply talking to each other, sitting next to each other over text. Nah, we're just taking away the most beautiful aspects of life, of what, and we just. I don't want to get too negative about this, but we
It's
we shouldn't be the ones destroying ourselves. That's what I can say.
100%. And it goes back to the previous point you mentioned. It starts with us as adults because very surprisingly, we're so concerned about kids' screen time. We should be more concerned about adult screen time first.
100%.
And put checks and balances in
Yeah.
place for. I think we should start treating adults like. I used to hate this when I used to go to one of my workplaces. They would ask us to put the phones in the locker, and I used to whine and complain that what is this? Yeah, why are they asking us to put phones in lockers? But now I get it. I think probably need to start treating adults like kids.
Yeah, or like imagine somebody who I saw online did a digital detox, and she said that I ate cleaner food. I ended up interacting, picked up, the phone and called up friends that I hadn't spoken to for a really long time, who I really love.
Mm,
But I just didn't do that. I just didn't pick up the phone and call them and speak to them. She said I spent more time in a cafe reading.
mm.
I made sure that I am cooking a little bit as well, and that there was self care that was involved, and I think isn't this what it should be? Even otherwise, that I think our minds get so caught up. It happens to me so very often. Like, I know for a fact that there is something, like, say, for instance, something has got cancelled, and I'm just on the phone, and after like 10 minutes, I'm like, what the hell am I doing? Let me just like throw this thing away. It's just like caught me in this. It's just taken so much of my attention and my time. That
Yeah.
is just not worth it. Why should I be doing that right now? And then no, I need to just keep the phone and, do something more constructive. Imagine if it can happen to adults, what happens to children? So, every time the television is switched off, there's a big meltdown that happens. Or a phone is snatched away, there's a big meltdown. Why do you want to even get there when you know for a fact that a child can do without a screen? A child can do without a phone. They don't need it. All that you need to see is they are safe. Then their safety is their mental safety and their physical safety, their emotional safety, and their overall well-being. And if you are really concerned about that, technology is not the way forward. It's a
I
very contrasting points that I'm putting with what the world is going with. But if you really want to raise good, resilient children, that's the way forward.
I think that's a very beautiful note to wrap up this episode, because that's the ultimate takeaway, that when you're raising children, especially in their formative years, over reliance on technology is only going to make them over dependent on it when they grow up. They are going to be in a technology driven world anyway as adults. So, as minimal as possible while they are growing up, more rooted in reality, more rooted in values and the mental frameworks, as you mentioned, your philosophy and framework will also help shape resilient children for the future.
100.
Thank you, Madhura. Anything else that you want to add or end before we wrap up?
I would say one thing to parents is that take it slow, observe your child, try and see what exactly your child wants. There are too many distractions even for us. So
Mm,
having a really healthy family time where maybe you're playing a game together or you're having some kind of family connections, say your prayers, say your go back to your roots, go back to your culture, go back to your traditions. We're really, really moving away from those. Something which was our identity all throughout. We're following too many things from the Western world and forgetting our own roots and cultures and traditions, etc. So I would say make a special effort. Make a
mm.
special effort to pass that on to our next generation. Yeah, that's something that I
Thank
would add.
Thank you so much, Madhura. So well, beautifully put. And I really appreciate all the time you've taken out today to
Thank you.
join us on this podcast, to engage in such a riveting conversation. And I have a lot of things to take back myself. So I hope our listeners felt the same way. And we'll stay in touch, Madhura. Thank you again.
Thank you so much for having me, and I hope all your listeners enjoyed it. All the very best for this wonderful parenting journey and this lovely parenting podcast as well. I wish you the best.